welcome to the SaaS Leaders Lounge, the go-to podcast for insights into the evolving tech landscape. I'm Ramon, your host. In today's episode of our AI series, we're excited to feature Alan Gormley, CEO of Shotbox AI, a company at the forefront of transforming the retail sector through artificial intelligence. Alan's journey from his academic roots at the University of Limerick to leading roles in tech innovation has culminated in the creation of Shotbox AI, redefining the e-commerce experience for retailers worldwide. Alan, it's wonderful to have you with us today. How are you doing and where are you joining us from?
Ramon, it's great to be on, and thanks very much for having me. I'm joining you from sunny Dublin. Doesn't happen very often.
Definitely. I'd say it's similar to the weather we have here in London. So yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it's sunny right now as well. So fingers crossed it stays the same. Brilliant. Well, Alan, to dive straight into it, are you able to discuss what led you to joining Shopbox AI as its CEO and how you believe the company will reshape the global retail landscape?
Yeah, so for me, Ramon, it's a bit of a journey. So I've been in the AI industry since late 90s. So I started working in AI and insurance, actually in Croydon. And I then joined one of the largest, in fact, at the time, the largest software vendor of AI software. They've been around since the 70s, but I led a lot of practices across Europe there. That's where I met my co-founder, Tarek. And it took us a while, but we gradually started to realize that we were only working with really large companies. And there was massive uplift being seen, but there were big, heavy, risky projects. And we thought, actually, there are places where this is something that should be switch onable. So we started to look at industries, and I spent a lot of time in retail and started to realize that, especially in e-commerce, there were problems we could tackle without having to go through massive risky projects that required skills that most retailers didn't have. So that was kind of the starting point. We did a lot of experimentation before Shopbox. And along the way, there were a lot of really interesting conversations that kind of led to what we wanted to focus on. Probably the biggest one was when somebody turned around to me one day and said, "I'm sick of paying Google for my own customers." I went, "Explain that to me." And so, well, look, my company name is not an English word. So nobody's typing it into Google because they want one of what I am. They want me. They're my customers. Why am I paying Google for that? And that's a really interesting problem. And the more we delved into it, the more we realized that actually people were spending most of their time shopping out on Google, not in the store. And Google managed the customer, not the retailer. And thought, that's the wrong way around. That's not the way it should work. So we really focused on that as a problem. I think that was a huge moment for us because we realized there are actually some fundamental problems we can solve here with AI. And that's really when it started to accelerate. And I guess that's where we decided it was time to set up a company and do something about it. So a bit of a journey, but I think all these things do tend to have quite a few points along the way.
Definitely. It sounds like a long journey at that, where there was probably a lot of lessons learned that's brought you to this point now. I've been following Shopbox AI as well, and I've seen you've been making waves with your latest features. Are you able to delve into any of these innovations and how they impact on the retail industry?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few innovations, but I think everything we do comes to a couple of fundamentals that we need to do to tackle that problem I mentioned. The very first one is we have no time to learn about a customer. So our industry is based on the idea that you gather history and then at some point you understand. That's fine if people want to hang around and give you loads of data, and they don't. So, and especially for the vast majority of retailers, they don't see customers that often. When they do, they've got next to no time to take advantage. So I think probably the biggest innovation that we have generally in our platform is the fact that it only takes us one click to understand how to start managing a customer. So if we have 100 different customers come to the site, after one click, all of them will start to see a different store that's specific to them. And I think that's it's something we've built in from day one, but we really started to focus on it in the last kind of year to 18 months. A lot of the innovation we've brought in has been on top of that concept. That's huge for us. And then what we're in the middle of rolling out right now is what we call the fully adaptive store. So when we looked at the industry 5 or 6 years ago, we realized that loads of people did recommendations. And I kind of
Yeah.
look funny when I say recommendations because I hate the concept, because the concept is, oh, sure, I'll just put some recommendations in the product detail page and we're done. And I go, you haven't done anything. All you've done is you've helped somebody who was already going to buy the product buy the product, but they'd already made most of their decisions.
Yeah.
So everything for us is about every aspect of the store should adapt as it learns about customer. So regardless of where you go, there's complexity in finding products. There's complexity in understanding which brands you should be looking at, price points, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we've really focused on every part of the store should start to adapt in real time to you. And that's what we're really focused on right now. So that's probably the biggest thing we're bringing out at the moment. And then we're doing other stuff on the side, like we're really pushing out into outside of the store. So the store is a great way to understand customers, but that understanding can be used anywhere. And
True.
how products work together can be used anywhere. So we're seeing, we're starting to push out into things like email and social media now, where we can use the information that we're gathering anonymously. And I know we will
Yeah.
talk about ethics because it's a hugely important topic. But that anonymous data can still be used by other systems. So CRM systems, loyalty systems, whatever it might be, can all use information anonymously about a customer so that they can help the customer better.
Brilliant. I think, yeah, incredible. It's clear that Shotbox AI is not just kind of keeping up with, but actually leading the charge in retail innovation. Your adaptation approach is truly transformative. And from what I've heard of speaking to other similar companies, but the intersection of AI and retail raises important discussions on privacy and employment. And we touched on this briefly in the previous question. How does Shotbox address these ethical considerations?
Yeah, so I think what's really important for us is we need to use data to help customers. Okay, and
Yeah.
if we state that as that's our goal. So I don't want customers to feel that we're taking their data. That's not the right approach at all. So when you take that approach, then there's a few things that are very simple. We don't take personal information. We don't use it. We don't want it. Okay, we actually write
Yeah.
into our contracts you're not allowed to send us personal information. We will delete it immediately. Um, the other thing is we only look at first party data. So we've always had the belief that using data from other sites is wrong, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're essentially stealing data from somebody else to use for you. And by the way, they're
Yeah.
stealing your data to use for somebody else. So, when we
It's
started the
true.
company, we used to talk a lot about, Google is great because they understand everything's happening in your store and they send you customers and go, yeah, and they sell those customers to your competitors using the data they gathered in your store. Is that okay? I went, oh, hang on a second. I went, exactly. So this is the problem with allowing people to manage data like that. It's just wrong. I think also what we're trying to do is pretty straightforward and it's very safe. So it's, what we're trying to do is we're trying to help customers find things that might be interesting for them. We're doing it in very clever ways, but at the end of the day, the whole philosophy is it's a service to customers. And it's one thing we work with a lot of omni-channel retailers. In
Yeah.
fact, vast majority of our customers will be omni-channel rather than pure play e-com. And especially founders and C-level in omni-channel, they love it from the point of view of it feels like the service they give in store and gives them back that connection with the customer. So,
Yeah.
if your customers are saying you're giving my customer service, that's a better fit. You feel you're probably in the right place. But yeah, like ethics, and the management of that is extremely important to us, which is why we just won't touch anything that we don't believe we should have access to.
Yeah, I think that approach or commitment to navigating through those complex issues is definitely commendable. As you hear a lot of companies, as you mentioned, ignoring it or utilizing third-party data recklessly, and then even kind of scaling up their operations by doing it a lot, so they learn from kind of the relatable forecast that it shows as well. Looking towards the future, how do you envision the evolution of AI in retail, and what role will Shopbox play in shaping this future?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. Like, I think everything is changing so fast, and I've always had the view you never know where you're going to end up. So the real trick is to keep an eye on everything and gather data as fast as you can on everything. With Shotbox, I think one thing that differentiates us from a lot of people that are out there is it's the core behavior engine is actually the most important thing to us. So people ask about, algorithms and yada yada, but actually that's only a tiny part of what you're actually trying to do. What we're actually trying to do is understand customers in real time. We're using layers and layers and layers of different types of AI to cover a lot of different things, from their preference around brand and color and size, and how, whether they're very brand focused or they're willing to buy off everyone or whatever it might be. So there's huge number of things that are coming to play. And I think what we've done is we said, look, let's have a behavior engine that you can use for anything. So I don't honestly believe we're going to be buying through a browser in 5 years' time. I think the browser is going to run out of steam at some point. It's already starting to run out of steam in some ways because it's very confining. And while new devices are coming along and we'll all talk about, they're ridiculously expensive or whatever, I do think that we're going to start seeing something that's much more immersive. And that's why the behavior engine becomes really interesting for that sort of stuff. I think also the people don't realize an awful lot of the AI that's used under the covers in retail as well. So for me, retail is about understanding your customer and figuring out what products you should put in front of them.
Yeah.
What retail has traditionally been is get some products and find some customers for it. So it's kind of been very product led. So I think one thing AI is allowing us to do is to start to figure out what our customers are interested in, not by surveys, but actually by understanding customers and realizing that there's huge differences between the way we think they behave and they behave. And one really good example, I won't mention the company because to say something slightly negative, but they were adamant to say, look, not over 90% of our customers land on a product page. So we know for a fact that our customers know the product they want. I went, really? Yeah. And do they know the brand they want? And then, yes. Well, 50% of them look at multiple brands. So those numbers don't stack up. What you're doing, what AI is allowing you to understand is that you have loads of customers who are way earlier in their thinking about what they want. But because they're coming in through Google Shopping Feed, you think that they've already made their mind up. But actually, all Google Shopping Feed is doing is pointing them to your site.
Yeah.
They don't really care where they end up. They just want to end up somewhere on the site so they can figure it out. So I think it's not just what's the experience going to be, are we going to be using goggles and whatever else, but it's also every aspect of retail, I think, is affected directly by AI and helping us to understand an awful lot more. And it's going to be an awful lot of fun. But I don't think it's going to stop. Like, I think we're now seeing a lot more problems we're being asked about that people automatically think the problem is solved by AI. And even though some of them are quite early days, so things like, doing things like complete the look automatically, that's something that's getting really interesting, so that we can start to build a whole picture of customer. 2 years ago, if you said that you do that in an automatic way, people wouldn't even listen to you. So it's moving very fast. It's getting very exciting very fast.
Yeah, definitely. I think everything you said is incredibly exciting, and it's kind of Shopbox seems like they're poised to lead a major shift in how we experience shopping, and definitely from your forward-thinking motions, it's clear to see you're ahead of that already. But with the rapid advancements in AI technology, how do you see the shopping experience evolving for consumers in the next decade?
Oh, I think it's going to get so much more connected. Like, it's still very disconnected if you think about it. From being online to walking into a store to Instagram to it's all very disconnected.
Yeah.
But it's coming together very, very quickly. So I think, and I think also as privacy, if people can get over privacy concerns, if we can start to be less invasive with how we use data and use it more cleverly, which is what we're really focused on, then I think that idea of being able to move seamlessly between things becomes really interesting. So being able to do something on your phone, walk into a store and have that experience change by what you've done on your phone, so that it can start helping you instantly rather than having to start from scratch. That, I think, gets really exciting very fast. And I don't think we're a million miles off. I think it's just things are coming together quite quickly. People are starting to see an opportunity between all those different experiences becoming one experience. But I think that gets very exciting. And I think, you know, we're going to see a lot of it's all becoming much more experiential because of that.
True.
And because we don't have to worry about the fulfillment as much in store as we did. So we're already seeing loads of stores are becoming experiences much more than stores.
Definitely.
So we're moving that direction very rapidly.
I agree.
And I would like a pair of Vision Pros if anybody wants to throw me $3,500, because I'm sure there's something really cool in there.
Most definitely. I'm waiting for the next version. But yeah, I agree with yourself. I can't wait to dive into that.
Yeah, I don't think a 2-hour battery life is going to cut it for me, but anyway.
But overall, I think what you said, Alan, is truly fascinating. The future of AI sounds like it will be more personalized, efficient, and also engaging, which is kind of what we want overall. Now to move on to more of a light-hearted quickfire section. It's a bit of fun. We're going to
Yeah.
do some quickfire questions, giving you two options to pick. Are you ready for me to start? Brilliant.
Go for it.
So, are you more of a detailed planner, or do you prefer to go with the flow?
Go with the flow. And nobody will object to me saying that.
Same as me. Do you prefer to go early to bed or late to sleep?
Ooh, interesting. Early to bed.
Brilliant. Do you prefer
Early to rise, yeah.
Definitely. Do you prefer saving or spending?
Oh, spending.
Same. Do you prefer a quiet countryside or a bustling city?
City.
Brilliant.
Every time.
Would you prefer to time travel to the past or the future?
Oh, that's a very good question. The future, I guess.
Brilliant. And last two.
Yeah, very good question.
Would you prefer to have super strength or super intelligence?
Intelligence.
Definitely.
Every time.
And last question, would you prefer to be invisible or able to fly?
Oh, able to fly. Why not?
Definitely. You can go anywhere you want quicker than being invisible. I'm sure of that. Okay.
Those-
As we like to keep the collaborative nature going on our podcast, we always have our previous guest ask a question for our current guest, and our current guest will ask a question for the next guest. So we previously had a gentleman called Bill Bowers from Advisi AI, and he's posed an intriguing question for you. Reflecting on the formative stages of your journey with Gen AI or your early experiences in the tech field, that he's curious about the pivotal lessons you've learned along the way. Specifically, he shared his own insight that focusing on context and content can significantly enhance the quality of outcomes. Are you able to share a key lesson or aha moment from your early days that you kind of think profoundly influenced your path?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing that still influences me today, and kind of everything I do, is you should always be slightly out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Not too far, but always slightly, and always. So I think there's no way we would have started the company without getting uncomfortable, but constantly uncomfortable, so that you get to the point where you actually enjoy being uncomfortable. You enjoy that feeling of just being on the edge of what you can accomplish.
Yeah.
And it allows you to do things you would never do otherwise. Because if what I found is people say, "Oh, I would never do that," and go, "Well, if you take the first step, it doesn't matter. You'll end up there."
Yeah.
But if you think about the big leap, you never do it. But so everything I've done, and very early in my career, I moved from technical to business, but I did it very fast. And I found it extremely stressful. But once I started to settle, I thought, okay, now all the time, just every dial moves forward a little bit all the time. And it's transformational. You look back after a year and you think you think, oh, I've only made incremental steps, but you look back and say, I'm completely different to what I was a year ago.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I agree.
But yeah, I think that lives with me all the time.
Perfect perspective, I must say, Alan. And now, the next guest that your question will go towards is a gentleman called Daniel Gaynor. He's the co-founder and also head of Signal AI. They're an AI-driven technology that harnesses vast amounts of data from media channels, enabling companies to make data-driven decisions. They do work with 40% of the Fortune 500, so definitely a great organization to kind of collaborate with, I must say. But what would your question be for Daniel Gaynor on the next podcast episode?
I think it's that, is there one pivotal moment that guides everything he thinks about? Because I think we all have a lot of different moments,
Yeah.
but it's just, is there one thing that really he focuses on and he goes back to every time. That gives him the energy to keep moving.
Sure. Fantastic question. Please tune in to our next episode to see the answer. I'm sure all of our listeners who want to know that to take on board for their life, career movements and decisions as well. But overall, and before we wrap up, Alan, are you able to let our listeners know where they can find more about you and also Shotbox AI?
Of course, yeah. So Alan Gormley, ALANGORMLEY on LinkedIn, of course. But really, to find out more about the customer, if they go to shotbox.ai, and it will be great for them to contact us and great to talk to them.
Brilliant. I'll have everything that you've mentioned included in the detailed comment section and within the YouTube channel and also within our
Excellent.
Spotify and Apple platform. But yeah, it's been great, a very great session with yourself. Thank you so much for joining the SaaS Leaders Lounge and for sharing your insights and the innovative journey of Shopbox AI. To our listeners, thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to catch all the insights from future tech leaders like Alan. Keep innovating and pushing the boundaries of what's possible in SaaS. Until next time, goodbye. Thanks very much, Alan.
Thanks, Ramon.
Brilliant.
Lovely talking to you.
Take care.